Hi, this is Stephen Wilson, and I'm coming to Australia really soon to play my new album, The Overview, with my amazing band and a lot of stuff from my back catalogue. I really hope you can make it along. See you there. Bye.
Beautiful, Steve. Thanks for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure as well, my friend. So, as you say, you head to Australia in November for a run of shows starting in Perth on November the 12th, then hitting Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney before finishing in Brisbane on November 17th. Like, that follows a massive run of UK, European, and American dates, mate. So, you'll be nice and warmed up by the time you get here.
That's the theory. That's the theory. Unless we're all sick by then and fed up with doing it. No, I'm joking. Of course. No, I'm really looking forward to coming to Australia. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. One of my favorite places in the world. I'm really looking forward to coming back.
And you'd say it has been a long time, bro, which it has. Like, what's changed in your world since last time you were out here?
Wow. Well, obviously we've had COVID in the interim. I've probably made about, God, I can't remember the last time I was there. Maybe 2016, was it? So I've probably made about three, four, even five albums since then. Got a lot of new repertoire to play. Got married in the meantime. I've got stepchildren now as well. So actually, lots of changes in my life for the better. The
Oh,
better, I should
man.
say. Yeah.
That's good. Now, you mentioned at the top the amazing band that you're bringing over, mate. So, introduce, because the focus is always on you because you're the seasoned professional, I guess everyone knows. But introduce us to the rest of the lineup, mate, and tell us what their role is with your music.
Oh, you see, no, in my band, I'm the amateur.
Yeah.
You know, I always do that thing. I think it was Frank Zappa that said, always be the worst musician in your band. And I am that person. I am the worst musician in my band. I mean, it's a great position to be in where you kind of surround yourself with these world-class musicians, but you're the guy with the ideas and you're the guy that's kind of captain of the ship, as it were. And that's me in this band. I have incredible people. I have a couple of long-term members, Nick Beggs on bass and Adam Holzman on keyboards. My drummer is Craig Blundell. Some people may know he's played with a lot of people over the years, most recently with Steve Hackett. And I've got a new guitar player, young. Well, I say young, he's in his 30s, young compared to me. Fantastic young American guitar player called Randy McStine is going to be joining me for this tour. So that's my band. Yeah.
Very nice. And the tour is on the back of your eighth studio album, The Overview, which came out on March 14th, mate. So it's only been a couple of weeks, but how's the early reception been for it?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I'm very good at avoiding any sort of feedback. I don't go on social media. I don't read comments. I don't know. I mean, it sold really well, and I mean the press reviews were very very positive. So I've got used over the years to being to the fact that I always kind of confront my listeners a little bit with each album because I try and do something different every time. Um, so I don't know. I hope they like it. I mean, it's a big chunk of music. It's quite a journey. I think that's what my fans like about what I do. This kind of sense of journey across an album, something that takes you a few listens to kind of discover and to understand and to decode. But I'm very, very much looking forward to playing it live and seeing how people respond to it in that context.
So the album is conceptually based and inspired by the overview effect of astronauts viewing Earth from space. Like, for the benefit of people
Yeah.
like myself who honestly have no idea what that is, can you explain the concept?
So very simply, when astronauts the first time they go into space and they see the Earth from space, they have a kind of very profound shift in perspective because they see for the first time how insignificant the Earth really is in a kind of beautiful way. How insignificant and how insignificant and lost in space the Earth really is, and therefore by extension, how insignificant the human race really is. And I think that affects people in very different ways. And that was one of the things that appealed to me, is that some people have a very positive reaction to that, and some people have a very negative reaction to that. And of course, the whole spectrum in between. So it's one of those things that's very hard to predict exactly how you will feel and how you will respond to that sudden moment of having so much perspective. So I was fascinated by that idea and I wanted to kind of essentially write about that word, perspective, having perspective on just how small I mean, the numbers are insane. When you go into it, the numbers are insane. There are trillions and trillions of planets in the universe. and ours is just one. There is a billion planets for every grain of sand that there is on the planet Earth. That's mind-blowing to me. So it was kind of just a way to explore some of those numbers and some of that idea of perspective, really.
What sort of research did you do for that? Did you write it just based on your own knowledge that you already had, or did you go in depth and research it?
Yeah, so I kind of approached it like a bit of an idiot, really. I didn't want to, I didn't want to do it as a science project, if that answers your question. I wanted to do it more from the kind of emotional perspective. This idea of understand that kind of profound moment of understanding just how tiny we are, and I think we all have kind of moments like that. It could be just standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, or looking up at the stars. I think we're all used to that feeling of again that word perspective, having a sudden moment of understanding just how small we are in relation to everything else in the cosmos. So I kind of wanted to explore that feeling rather than sort of go into deep scientific rigor. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sure. And the overview contains just the two tracks at 42 minutes long, mate. So, and you're known for doing your extended sort of songs, but run us through the thought process, like in the creative stages. Like most people write a song, they know it's going to fit to a 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, but you haven't got a start and end point. So how do they create? Like, how do you know when to stop, when's enough?
So I think it's a bit like if you imagine sitting down to write a novel or you sit down to write a movie script, you're basically going to tell a story and you have an idea of your characters and you have an idea of your starting point, or at least I did. I knew how it was going to start, and I knew broadly speaking where I wanted to end as well. So it's really a question of how do you tell that story? How do you take the listener on that journey? And in the sense of the writing, it was very much written in the order that you hear it. So each idea kind of suggested the next idea. So each doorway kind of led to the next room in that sense. So I just kind of followed my instincts, and I didn't have any I didn't have any particular length in mind. I didn't know if it was going to be 15 minutes or 25 minutes. I just kept writing until I felt that the story had been told, if that makes sense.
And how do you go in the modern age, bro? Like it's the modern age, people's attention spans are just getting less and less and less. Like, does that ever factor into it for you when you're writing compositions like this that are lengthy, that maybe a lot of people just won't have time to listen to it?
Well, the simple answer is I try not to think about the listener when I make art. Now that's when I make my music. That sounds very selfish and self-indulgent, and it is. But I've always believed that artists, if I can pretentiously call myself that, should never be thinking about their audience when they create the art. It is, I think by definition, it is kind of a selfish act. And you just hope that people want to go with you on that journey, and you hope that people will give you the benefit of the doubt. And I have a fairly loyal fan base that kind of listen to everything I do. Even if they moan about it and they complain it's not what they want, they kind of still go with me on that journey, which is, I think, something that I've built up over the years, that kind of loyalty. And also, I think there's a sense of providing the alternative. There's always been this notion in pop and rock music of alternative music, providing the alternative to whatever is the mainstream at that moment. Now, the mainstream at the moment, as you suggested, is very kind of immediate, short, synthesized pop music, usually sung by female solo artists. That seems to be very much the prevalent mainstream pop form at the moment. So here I am kind of providing the alternative to that. And there are people that want that. There are people that want to engage with music on a deeper level and are prepared to sit and listen to a longer piece of music. So in that sense, I see myself as the alternative to the mainstream. And there's always an audience for that, always.
Yeah, cool. And how about playing live, bro? Like your songs are that long, like you've got so much music that people that love, they love. And when they come to see you live, if you play the compositions like that, you can only play 4 songs in an hour and a half, so you're not going to be able to please a lot of
Well,
people.
Well, that's true, but I have a lot. I mean, I have a lot of different kinds of albums I've made over the years. I've made albums of short pop songs, I've made albums of long conceptual suites, and the show will be a mixture, of all of those things. So the second half of the show is going to be a complete performance of the overview from beginning to end, and so that will be very much the meat of the show. The first half of the show will be a journey through my back catalogue. There'll be short pieces, long pieces, covering all the different sort of aspects of my musical personality. So hopefully something for
Nice.
everyone.
Now, the overview is also punctuated with cinematic electronics and a fully immersive atmosphere, I guess, while you listen to it. Like, how difficult is it to elicit those feelings through music?
Well, the answer to that question is I don't really have an answer for you because I'm not aware of the process when I'm creating these things. I'm just kind of trusting my instincts. So how hard is it? I don't know. I mean, it may be that I've failed to communicate that stuff to certain listeners. I don't know. Um, I mean, I hope not. I hope that the emotional quality and the subject matter and all of that does come across well. But I'm really just following my instincts and trying to convey what I feel. And that's all I think anyone can ever do when you're creating a piece of art. And you kind of you have to trust to that kind of process and hope that it will communicate to an audience. Whether it has or not, I time will tell, I guess.
Well, there's another part of the press release that mentions spatial audio wizardry when describing the sound of the album. Like, can you run us through what that actually is and why it's important with your music, particularly?
So yeah, so one of the big kind of developments in music over the last few years has been this idea of spatial audio or immersive audio, Dolby Atmos 5.1 surround sound. And in a way, this is kind of mirroring the way a lot of things are going these days. So one of the buzzwords you'll hear a lot these days with regard to film, computer gaming, you name it, is immersive experiences, and music is also responding to that. So we now have a big push in the direction of spatial audio, Dolby Atmos, having speakers not only in front of you but also behind you, beside you, and above you, so you can have sound coming from in the vertical plane as well as the horizontal plane. And I've mixed the overview very much. I've created the overview very much with that particular medium in mind. And it's becoming much more common now. A lot of people have cinema systems at home. We've done a lot of playback events for the album where people can come along and hear the overview in cinemas, in Dolby Atmos rooms. And it's really an opportunity for me to put the music all around you. So you're literally sitting inside, you're literally floating in space when you're listening to this record. And I love that, and I love the fact that this is one of the big movements in music these days. It's very exciting.
How much more work is there for you to create that? Like people, you've got your music that you created that you commit into album, but then to make it so that it is fully immersive and raw, like is that another style of writing, or is it something you put in someone else's hands and they add things to it?
No, I do it all myself. I've been working in surround sound for about 20 years now. I mean, I started off doing 5.1 many years ago, pretty much when nobody else was doing it, but I've always loved it. And now that Dolby Atmos has become a thing, since people at Apple and Tidal have all really adopted it and really heavily promoted it, I'm in my element. I think there is an art to it. You do learn by your mistakes, as with anything. Not everything works, but with an album like The Overview, where there's so many layers and there's so many textures and there's so much of what I would call sound design, little moments, little details in the music, which I think in answer to your question, when I'm making the music, I am kind of aware, oh yeah, there's going to be an Atmos mix and that's going to sound great in Atmos. So I'm adding things I think which I might potentially not add if I knew it was just going to be in stereo, but I'm kind of adding them knowing that they're going to sound amazing coming from above the listener or behind the listener or moving around the listener, because of course you can create movement also with these surround mixes as well, which is also perfect for an album like The Overview.
Wow, that's an art form all in itself, right? That's really impressive.
It's really exciting and it's gaining traction all the time. I'm very excited about the way it's going.
Beautiful. All right, Steve. Well, thanks very much for your time, bro. It was very informative. Thanks. You'll be out here on tour from November the 12th. The album, The Overview, is out now. and I'm going to make sure I get myself some good speakers and sit there and quiet and have a good proper listen to it after speaking with you.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Kris. Pleasure to speak to you, mate.
All right, buddy. Enjoy the rest of your night.